Why do people hate math? Is it perhaps because the numbers keep adding up and never invite us to their party? Mathematics, the subject that has been the source of countless sleepless nights and furrowed brows. To most, math seems like this complex labyrinth filled with numbers and formulas that are as welcoming as a porcupine at a balloon party. Now, I know what you're thinking. Math is just a subject, right? But oh, how wrong you are. This is the subject that has had people convinced that there's some grand conspiracy to make their lives miserable. Some even joke that if math was a person, it would be that overzealous friend who just doesn't understand the concept of personal space. You know, the one who insists on tagging along to every event, every party, every quiet evening in, and just refuses to take a hint. So it seems that math, like a clingy ex, is just not ready to let us go. Remember the time when the math test paper looked more like alien hieroglyphics than a test? I'd like to share a tale with you. A tale of epic proportions featuring a brave student named Bob. Bob had a math test, the kind that makes you question your existence. You know the type, right? The ones where the questions seem to have been conjured up during a late-night brainstorming session between Einstein and a mischief-loving leprechaun. So, Bob was staring at this question. If a train leaves the station at 3 in the afternoon, traveling at 60 miles per hour, and another train leaves the same station at 4, traveling at 80 miles per hour, when will the second train overtake the first? Poor Bob, he was stumped. But then, like a light bulb, an idea popped into his head. Instead of doing the math, Bob wrote, "Why should I care? I'm not the train dispatcher." It made the teacher chuckle, but it also highlighted a common sentiment. Sometimes math problems feel more like riddles or puzzles, leaving us scratching our heads, wondering if we're supposed to be mathematicians or fortune tellers. And there lies the frustration. Math tests can feel less like a measure of our numerical understanding and more like a test of our ability to decipher cryptic messages from an ancient civilization. And that, my friends, is the story of how a math test became an archaeological expedition. In a world of calculators and computers, who needs to do math, right? Picture this. You're at a bustling market and there's a chap, let's call him Fred. Fred's trying to haggle for a pair of socks. The vendor quotes him £10, but Fred, being the shrewd negotiator he is, counters with 7. The vendor, not having a calculator handy, scratches his head, struggling to figure out the difference. Now here's the kicker. Fred, ever reliant on his trusty calculator, whips out his phone only to realize it's out of battery. The crowd watches in anticipation as Fred fumbles, trying to do the math in his head. It's a standoff of epic proportions, a battle of wits over £3. This comical scenario illustrates how our reliance on technology has made us somewhat lazy, even reluctant to engage with something as fundamental as arithmetic. So here's a thought to ponder. So is math the villain, or are we just too spoiled by calculators? So why do we hate math? Is it the numbers, the tests, the calculators, or just the mere mention of the word math? Let's take a stroll down memory lane, shall we? We've talked about the conundrum that math poses. It's like a riddle, wrapped in an enigma, shrouded in mystery, and served on a platter of confusion. The numbers dance around like they're at a disco, and we're left to make sense of their erratic moves. Then we've explored the terror of the dreaded math test. The countdown begins and the clock ticks away, each second a cruel reminder of the impending doom. The questions stare back at us, their smug faces mocking our despair. It's like being trapped in a horror movie, only this time, it's made of numbers and equations. And let's not forget our dear friend, the calculator. The sweet relief of punching in numbers and letting this magical device do the hard work. But oh, the treachery when it fails us, leaving us stranded in a sea of numbers, our only lifeboat gone. So perhaps we can blame it on the numbers for being too confusing, or on the calculators for making us lazy. Or maybe it's just the word math that sends shivers down our spines. In the end, whether we love it or hate it, math, like that one relative who always overstays their welcome, is here to stay. So let's try to make peace with it, shall we?